Hi, welcome to the Secret Sex Lives of Muslim Women.
This episode contains discussions of rape, alcoholism, domestic violence, and abuse. Please listen with care.
I'm your host, Salma Hindi. This is the 7th episode of our podcast, and it is a podcast of the older Muslim sister that you wish you had. And today we have a very special guest joining me in the studio. Our guest's name is Sarzana Zafar, a certified trauma-informed coach who supports women navigating the father wound. My favorite wound, as well as those going through separation or divorce. She is a graduate of the University of Toronto, shout out Canada, and holds a professional trauma certificate from Wilfrid Laurier University. Sarzana also leads transformative 8-week divorce recovery support groups with participants from Canada, the US, and the UK. And her third cohort is launching this October 2025. Drawing from her own personal experiences, Sarzana created the Daughter with Daddy Issues podcast, where she explores the complexities of father-child dynamics, how they shape our lives, and what it truly takes to break free. Sarzana, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me all the way from Toronto.
All the way from Toronto.
To New York City, center of Manhattan.
No, the way I feel like you did like a hijra, like this was sort of hajj. This is a pilgrimage for Sarzana.
This I feel was quite a spiritual trip for me.
So we don't know each other, but you have been following me for a while, and this is our first time meeting.
This is our first time meeting.
And we shared a home last night. You know what I mean? This is how committed we are to the podcast.
I fell in love with your cat.
She fell in love with Storm.
He rubbed himself against my feet. I felt chosen and validated the way I wish my dad validated me. There we go.
We're getting into it. Okay, so do you want to tell me like a little bit about yourself and how you got into this work of like the father wound?
Wow, how I got into the work of the father wound.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about your upbringing?
Sure. So, well, can we just give a shout out to Mississauga?
Hell yeah.
Like Mississauga girl?
Would you say Valley Hospital? That's where I was born.
I was born all the way in Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Ooh.
Yes. Went to an English school back in Bangladesh. I finished my grade 12 there. And then my parents and I immigrated when I was 18. And I went to University of Toronto. I started, my double major there in bio and chemistry that I'm not using at all right now.
Amazing.
Right. Yeah. Do you relate?
I relate. I strongly relate.
Do you relate?
But there's a part of me that kind of wants to use it. Like I am obsessed with biology, anatomy. Like I literally pretend like I'm a doctor anytime an issue arouses in my health or somebody else's. And there's a part of me that like kind of wants to go back and learn more about, I don't know, the female body or more about anatomy and physio. But yeah, there's so much engineering that I don't use, so much math, so much calculus, like down the drain. What was it all for?
Multi-million-dollar question. What was it all for?
So wait, this has nothing to do with anything, but did you get bullied for having an accent when you moved to Toronto at 18?
I didn't get bullied at all because at that point we were all in university.
Right.
But I think there would be certain words that I would say not right, and that still happens to be. Like there are certain words I still don't say right, but I think some people would sometimes like giggle at me for saying it wrong, and it would hurt my feelings, and I'm like, why are you doing that?
It is very hurtful, but that's all we did when we were younger was make fun of anyone who had an accent. It's
However, there were certain times when people would actually say, oh, you actually speak good English. Like I wasn't expecting, like you literally landed to Canada like a month ago.
Right.
And that is when I'm like, thank God I went to English school.
So now you're in Toronto, you're in university.
Yes.
Tell us how you got here to the father wound. How did you
Oh
get
my
there?
gosh, that would take like a 20-hour podcast, girl. So I started wearing the hijab when we were still in Dhaka. So I came to Canada. I was a hijabi. And obviously in university, I would, mingle with mostly the MSA. And
which is the Muslim Students Association.
There was this kind of an idea that you have to get married.
Right.
You have to get married. Like, what are you doing? Like, you have to get married right after you graduate. Oh my gosh, you have to get married. Like, you can't date. You can't have a boyfriend. Like, you have to get married. You have to get married. Like,
and then everyone in the MSA was getting married. They were dropping like flies. You know what I mean? If you didn't get married, it was like, oh, you're unlovable or you're behind or like you're not going to start your life.
Yes. And so that whole concept of I need to get married, I need to keep things halal. My relationship with my father had left a huge wound and like this void in me, and being the only child.
So do you want to briefly talk about your dad and your relationship? Like what's the backstory there?
The backstory is I was daddy's little girl. I was the center of universe for my father. He was the center of universe for me. Loved him. Waited for him to come home every day. Couldn't sleep at night without giving him a hug. Mm-hmm. Anytime he would be away, I would miss him. I would actually sniff his t-shirts when he would be away. Like, I was extremely attached to my dad. And then things happened between my parents. My dad started struggling. And at one point, I think he just wanted to abandon us. And so he ended up abandoning my mom and I.
And how old were you at this point?
I was 12, literally just hit puberty.
Okay.
My father got involved with another woman. And a lot of the things that I started learning about sex in general was just seeing things unfold between my parents' relationship and my father's infidelity at the time, and how it affected my mom and how it affected us. My father, unfortunately, God protect him, had become an alcoholic. And it took a toll on him. It took a toll on us, especially in Muslim communities. Like, people would judge and shame instead of help and understand. Right.
A lot of times in our communities, people are like asking you questions and you're like, oh my God, are they concerned about me? Like, are they going to help me? And it's just like, no, now they got what they wanted. They got the gossip.
They got the gossip, right? They got the gossip.
It's so hurtful.
It is extremely hurtful. So growing up, I think, and then people would look at me a certain way as if somehow, her parents are having issues. Her dad is kind of going sideways.
Right. And then they're also so happy because now your family's issues is out in the open. So it's like fair game for everyone to attack. Meanwhile, everyone else's family is like falling apart, but it's like behind closed doors.
Exactly. And so because those are behind closed doors, they can stay. They can pretend. They can stay focused on my family drama.
Exactly.
And ignore the fact that they're having probably even worse family drama. Because at the end of the day, at the very least for me or for us, it was out in the open.
Right.
Alcoholism is not a non-Muslim issue.
I was going to say, because this is the first time I've ever heard of alcoholism within the Muslim community, but I also come from a specific corner of the Muslim community, right? So I'm wondering, did you see other examples besides your father of alcoholism growing up?
Absolutely. When I used to go to university, I used to have a lot of Muslim friends whose fathers, Muslim fathers, also struggled with alcoholism.
Right.
From
the
Arab world. Yes.
Okay.
From the Arab world, from the South Asian communities. We just don't talk about it.
Right.
And it makes sense why. Even though now I'm saying it, a part of me is just like, should I really reveal that my father struggled with alcoholism? A part of me is like, oh, people are going to think negatively of my dad now. People are going to think, oh, look at this daughter outing her dad like that. Why would you do that?
Right.
You should cover and hide your dad's sins. Part of me is worried, and it makes complete sense. And a part of me is also like, let me tell the world, my dad has quit alcoholism. He's good now. He's this now. He's that now.
Right.
And that's where it just becomes really sad that the community, the culture, we shame instead of trying to help, instead of trying to repair. And so we internalize that shame and we carry it for so long. And it takes so much of unwinding and weaving out. So my dad, there was a lot of abuse involved. Mm-hmm. My father was extremely abusive to my mom in every shape possible. Things that I witnessed that nobody should. And again, it was, the whole community was also like, oh, she's growing up in such a chaotic household. I actually remember, Salma, for 2 months, my mom didn't let me go to school because she was like, stay at home because my father had just, out of his alcoholic rage, had kicked me and my mom out of the house. Trigger warning.
And how old were you at this time?
I was 12.
You were 12,
yeah.
So he kicked you. Was this when you guys officially left him, parted ways?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
It was just a random night.
Yeah, he drank a lot and he had an alcoholic rage, and he actually, trigger warning, he actually almost killed my mom. Oof. So he almost killed my mom, and I was 12, and I was the one who had to intervene physically to protect my mom and save her. And so my mom was like, this is extremely unsafe. And, and my dad kept saying, get out of the house. So we had to leave, and he was making it very unsafe. So I couldn't go to school for 2 months. And my mom, I remember, had called my principal to say that, I'm just keeping her in for now. And I remember my school principal told my mom, oh, she's going to be psychologically damaged her whole life now because of what was going on in the household or the environment I was exposed to. And then I had family friends coming to me and telling me, whatever you do, don't quit studying. Whatever you do, kids with divorced parents, they go haywire, they become drug addicts, they
Such
quit
bizarre
school.
reactions to a young girl who's in it.
And, obviously there are stats,
Yeah, but why are you telling me right now that I'm a stat and that I'm a cliche and that my life is I'm headed to a future of doom, which first of all, you don't know. Second of all, how is that helpful right now?
It's not. So I was experiencing a lot of the shame. I was experiencing a lot of those things. And in my mind, I was just like, I'm going to go to U of T. I'm going to be the best student. And I was the topper in my class. I'm going to prove the world that, I don't have daddy issues, like,
Right.
you know, all of that. But, and then obviously, despite of, you know, being a hijabi, there was, you know, like, I couldn't ignore the fact that I'm a lover girl. I couldn't ignore the fact that I really wanted a man in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And also because in my relationship with my mom, because of everything that was happening, obviously my childhood was robbed from me. I had to become an adult really quickly. At the very age of 12, I was already thinking of, how are we going to survive financially? How are we going to survive? What are we going to do? Like, you know,
Right.
Staying emotionally composed, which was very hard because, you know, you take my dad off like a little bit and he's going to be like, I'm not going to pay for your school anymore. And that would happen. And it's like,
Right.
oh my gosh, he's going to pay for my school now. Oh, what's
Right.
going to happen? So all of those things. And so I really wanted a man in my life, and I really wanted to really drop into my feminine and for once be like, can somebody just take care of me? Like, can I be the one to just, you know, like, hey, can I like lean on you and you take care of me?
Right.
But then obviously, like, you know, I had relationships. I was also married, and I'm also divorced.
So
And
when did you like discover I have daddy issues? Like, when was it like very apparent to you?
It was the time when one of my exes literally spoke to me the way my dad would. And it felt like, and it reminded me of 2013, a therapy session that I had where my therapist said, just be careful because a lot of women end up being in relationships with men who are similar to their father figures. And I told her, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Like, I thought, like, no, of course I'm going to be so careful. But then it was in this relationship where my ex at the time literally behaved with me, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, this is exactly what my dad would do with me and my mom. What the hell? So there were three things that made me realize about my daddy issues. The first part was when my ex treated me the way my dad would treat. And I'm like, okay, there is something going on here that is unresolved.
Right.
The second thing was when I had to take a step back, and obviously through therapy as well, I started realizing some of the ways that I was showing up in the relationship that was extremely dysregulated, that was, you know, like getting triggered, you know, the way, you know, I would just show up so dysregulated whenever there would be a trigger. And then I started looking into complex PTSD or childhood PTSD. And then there's this
My
book.
favorite.
There's this.
I'm number one member of that club.
So there is this book, you know, people, if you're curious about complex PTSD, it's a book by Pete Walker. It's called Complex PTSD From Surviving to Thriving. Amazing book by Pete Walker. And I had that book and I started reading it. And that's when I realized my father wounds and my relationship with my dad and things that I saw and experienced really shaped my life. And it honestly doesn't even have to be physical abuse. It can be emotional neglect. It can be growing up with a parent or both parents who never allowed you to feel.
Totally. Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, alcoholism is a whole beast on its own. And thank you so much for talking about it. Like, I don't think I've heard anybody else in our community talk about it. And it's not that they're not necessarily going through it. Like we said, it is happening, but people don't talk about it.
And it makes sense. Like, you know, like Muslim communities, like, oh, you drink? Like, I am sorry. Like, okay, you are normalizing gossip. You're normalizing abuse. You're normalizing so
Shame.
many things. You're normalizing shame. You're normalizing unforgiveness. You're normalizing lack of empathy.
It's also a way of saying, I can't relate to you because this is so unfamiliar to me. So my default thing is to like put you down. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. And you're normalizing a lot of these things. And so, you know, when it comes to alcoholism, there's a lot of like shame and demeaning to that. And I think that is actually one of the reasons why, unfortunately, in our Muslim community, if there are people, Muslims, who still believe, but they're struggling with alcoholism, they struggle to find help in our community because they know that if they open up and say, I can't stop drinking, this is the only way I cope, I'm in depression, this is the only way I'm coping with my breakup or whatever it might be, they don't receive that help. And that for me is just very heartbreaking.
Of course. Addiction is addiction, right? Just because maybe alcoholism is not prevalent in the Muslim community doesn't mean porn addiction isn't prevalent.
I was
you know what I
thinking
mean?
of that too. Yes.
Let's be fucking honest.
Yes.
I guess I could talk a little bit about me. My dad, I'm just like really kind of getting into that realization now, and because it sounds stupid when I say it, but it's real. Like, he was truly a workaholic, as in I would never see him. He would just spend all day working, and then he would come home and run upstairs, maybe come downstairs to eat dinner, and then back upstairs. Like, I would never see him. And then like once a year he'd be like, wait, I have a daughter, like let's do an inventory, and then be like, what's going on in you and your life, and like interrogate me. Otherwise I would only like sit down and talk to him if I wanted money, or if like I wanted to let him know about a big life step that I was going to take, like a job I was going to accept, or a plan, you know what I mean?
Right.
He was like the decision-making board with me in that way, because he was also funding my life.
Right.
But otherwise, completely absent.
Yeah. And, like, this is also one of the things that I am exploring as well. Because my father, he funded my U of T.
Okay.
Like, I graduated with no student debt. Super grateful. Thank you, Dad. Like, if it
I have student debt, but
like, if it wasn't for my dad, like, I wouldn't have been able to graduate from U of T.
Right.
And there was a lot of like emotional abuse involved. Like 2 weeks before the deadline, my dad would call me, I'm not paying your tuition. Like, I'm not paying this fee anymore. And I'm like, am I going to go to the school this year? And then literally the day before, he'd be like, okay, I'm going to send you some money. So there was still a lot of emotional
Power play.
There was power play. So
my dad would do that too. Like,
so much
I'm gonna,
power
you know
play.
what? I'm taking you out of school. You're gonna get married. I'm gonna ship you to Egypt tomorrow. I was like, what? It was like a
Yes.
nightmare back then. Now I'm like, wait.
And there
Can
was a
someone
lot of
please do
power
that?
play. Yes. And then the moment he would send me the money, like a part of me would be like, thank you, Dad. So, and that was also how I was almost getting not addicted, but like I was getting used to like breadcrumbs, and I was like, like that love bomb, and then forgiving, and then it really ends up disconnecting us from ourselves, and it makes you question your worth, the self-worth. I think at the core of daddy issues is actually our struggle with our self-worth, because I was going to say, the role of the dad is not to just take inventory or pay for your school. The role of the dad is to help you grow up. If you're a woman, to help you grow up, to be confident in your femininity, to be confident in your worth, to be so connected to yourself that you are able to mean the yes when you say yes, to mean the no when you say no.
Yeah. Wow. Wonderful segue. And now I want to talk about consent, which is essentially our topic for this episode. So you do a lot of trauma-informed work. You yourself do a lot of somatic therapy, etc. Do you want to talk about consent and what it means to you, and why you want to talk about it, why you want to share it with Muslim women today?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, before we came here, I've been thinking, should I open up about the story? Should I not open up about the story? Should I not say it? And you know what, Salma? I'm going to open up about the story.
She's going to open up about the story?
I'm going to open up about the story.
Doing it.
I am doing it. I flew you all the way from Toronto to be here. Okay. I need like 10 seconds.
Okay. This is a heavy story, so...
This is a heavy story.
With trigger warning.
Lots of trigger warning.
Assault.
Yes. I just want to say in this very moment how fucking proud I am of myself. So 2013, I started getting attention from one of my friend's brother. He was cute. He was a singer. He was popular. And he started giving me a lot of attention. And I was a hijabi. I was 19.
You're in university in
Toronto. I'm in university in Toronto. First year, second year, the teen, There is a part of me, it's like, one day I want to get married too. But it was like, I don't want to say the marriage part. Like, that was obvious at the back of my head because, I want to make it halal. Like, I want to make it halal. I want to have a partner. But I think my mind at the time was that I want to find the love of my life. I remember one time somebody asked me, what is your goal in life? And I literally told them, my goal in life is to find the love of my life. Like, I was like, I really wanted to find a person that I could call my own. Mm-hmm. And so he started giving me a lot of attention. And then he asked me out if I'd like to go for a ride. And I was hesitant. A part of me wanted to go. A part of me wasn't too sure. And I thought, it's just a ride. It's going to be fine. And I used to wear the hijab at the time. Like, it's not going to do anything. So I ended up going on a ride. And then one ride became a second ride. And then the second ride became a third ride. And the third ride became a fourth ride.
And what do you do on these rides? You guys just driving?
We just drive. We listen to music.
Okay.
He takes me by the lake, Lake Ontario.
Drive-through?
Lake, the Jack Darling Park.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know Jack Darling Park.
Any drive-through? Did he take you to Dairy King?
He took me to Tim Hortons and he got me coffee. I know. See,
Dump him!
Tim Hortons! The self-worth. Oh my gosh, you gotta get me tips.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, back then that would have been crazy. easy for me too.
Exactly. Like, oh, this is so cute. We went to Tim's drive-thru.
Right.
Especially if you are wearing a hijab and like, like you don't have boys, like, like you're not going out with boys, like that feels like a big deal.
It's true.
It feels like a huge deal. And like we're listening to music and I'm like, this is so romantic. And he would sing in the car and I was just like mesmerized by this guy. I was smitten. One thing led to another and he ended up taking my virginity. But before he even took it, at every stage of whatever led to that, I kept saying, no, please, no. At one point, I even had a tear rolling down my cheek. He ignored. And he was just like, relax. I'm like, no. And
This was in his car?
This was in his car. This was at the backseat of the car. And he was like, no. And then it just kept going. And I'm like, please, no.
And he was all in one...
In just tight spot.
One sitting. Like, all of it.
He even said, oh, I'm not going to enter you. And I was a virgin. And I'm like, please don't. Like, I'm not. And like, like one thing after the... I'm like, please don't. Like, I'm not ready. It's like, I'm not going to enter you. And I'm like, okay. And then he entered me. And I would... And, like everybody who had sex for the first time, like, obviously it's painful. And I'm just like, no. And even then after he entered me, I'm like, no. And he just kept going and he kept going. And then he finished. And then he got up and then he got dressed and he said, put your clothes back on. And I put my clothes back on. I love the look on your face. And then he was like, okay, I'm going to drop you off home right now. And in my mind, I'm just like, what the heck just happened here? And then I asked him, can you please take me to Walmart? He was like, okay. And then I went to Walmart. I went to the bathroom and I was bleeding and I started wiping myself and I was bawling my eyes out in Walmart bathroom because I'm like, I don't even know what the hell happened. I got out of the Walmart and then he was like, okay, do you want me to drop you off home now? And I looked at him and was like, no, it's okay. I'll just walk from here. And then he yelled at me. He literally yelled at me, Salma. He literally yelled and said, then why did you keep me waiting? And then he just drove off. And I'm like, what? I know. And then, let me continue the story. And then I walked home and I was crying. And I'm walking home. Obviously, I have my hijab on. And I'm just like, God, what did I just do? I am so sorry. And I felt so much guilt. I felt extreme guilt. I felt like
shame.
Shame I felt. I had actually become suicidal at that point. I was like, I want to take my life. Oh my gosh, how will I tell my mom who's going to ever marry me?
In the moment you froze, right? Which is like a very common reaction in moments of trauma.
So I froze and I fawned.
Right.
So I froze and I fawned because a part of me was because I was so into him, it clouded my judgment in a way as well. And a part of me was just like, I don't want to upset him because I'm into him. And I was fawning and also
your belief that like, no, he really likes me. Like, no, he can't possibly do something to harm me.
Yes.
When you're with a man that you like romantically, you have this undertone of, he likes me, therefore he's going to care for me and he can't possibly be my assaulter. In fact, he's supposed to protect me from any harm.
And that is valid. And that is very valid.
Right. But then it turns out he's the one who was
the one assaulting you.
Yeah.
And in this dynamic with him, we hadn't reached a point where I was seeing him as my protector or somebody to care for me. But what I didn't expect him to do is to harm me. And so I was drowning in shame. I was drowning in guilt. And I was berating myself. And I'm like, Sarzana, you're a terrible Muslim. Why did you even allow him to touch you? Why did you even allow him to kiss you? Like, why did you even kiss him? Like, why did you even let it go that far? And I'm like, you let him go that far. And for the longest time, Salma, I remember I was literally talking to Christians. I was talking to Christians about it. And because I didn't know how to talk to Muslims about it. And I was talking to Christians about it and be like, will God forgive me? Will God forgive me? And I was just going at it. That incident is what led me to start therapy. And then even in my therapy sessions, I could never open up that this is why I'm in therapy. I'm in therapy because I was raped. I could never say it out loud. And there was also a part of me that would wonder, was I really raped? Because I was going on rides with this guy. Was it really rape?
Right. We always think rape is like you're in an alleyway and you're just like innocently trying to walk and some angry drunk guy that you don't know grabs you and like pins you down and you're like, no, you're screaming. Like we have this like vision or idea of what rape is. And so then we don't realize like the many other ways or instances it can happen, which is literally just someone doing something against your consent. Like, it doesn't matter if you like them. It doesn't matter if you agreed to everything up until that point. You could have even agreed to it and then changed your mind. That's still rape.
Yeah. you can change your mind. And it took me a lot of time to come to the point that I was raped. It was a lot of forgiving myself. There were moments when I was like, oh my gosh, God is not gonna, I have disappointed God so much. Like, it's devastating. It tears you apart emotionally. It also makes you question if you're lovable. The biggest sin that our society and our communities are committing right now, Salma, is making people believe that they're not worth of God's mercy. Mm-hmm. If you are someone who is going through that right now and you are questioning your worth in God's eyes, I just want to tell you that God loves you. And I just want to tell you that what happened to you wasn't your fault. We also need to start talking about that the desire to kiss, the desire to be held, the desire for intimacy is so human. It's so human. You know, wanting to kiss a boy, wanting to be intimate, it's so human. Islam talks about, you know, doing it in the context of marriage, in that context of like that committed relationship. But we need to start talking about the fact that we all get horny. We all have our libido. And we also need to talk about there are a lot of us who actually have a stronger libido than others. We shouldn't be shaming that.
Right. But it's like everybody has a libido. Every single person has, you know, a sexual
desires,
impulses and desires. And if you suppress it, it's going to come out in other ways.
Exactly.
Like we mentioned earlier, porn addiction, or you start taking advantage of children or helpless people that you can kind of get away with. That's why there's like clergy abuse in every religious community, for instance. Like when you repress your sexual impulses and your desires against your natural human nature and instinct, that's when it starts to come out and seep out in very toxic, unhealthy, dangerous ways.
And so going back to consent, it wasn't overnight. It wasn't just after that. Like that was when I was 19 and I am 32 now. It took well over a decade to understand what consent really is. The way I would define consent is when willingness, where all parts of you says yes. And have you heard of internal family systems?
Yeah.
So I love internal family systems. We all have parts. We all also carry a people-pleasing part. So when I fawned, it was the people-pleasing part in me. But like if you have had a dad who would make you abandon yourself to please him, we learn self-abandonment. Right. You know, we learn self-abandonment from home.
I would say most women self-abandon to appease the authority, which is usually a man.
Yes. Or sometimes even a woman.
Right.
And it's not just about women doing that. There are a lot of times when men are doing that too, whether they realize it or not.
Right.
A lot of men are abandoning themselves and walking on eggshells with their mommies. Right. It happens. It took me a lot to kind of come to the point that consent is when all parts of me says yes, not just one part, not just the part who is like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I just want to do this right now. There is a part of me that's not ready. Getting in touch with yourself, getting in touch with your body, getting in touch with your parts, getting in touch with your inner child, getting in touch with yourself fully is so important, because the moment a part is like, oh, I just want to slow it down a little bit, that's when you need to pause. You need to pause. And that is where our agency comes into play. And it becomes my responsibility to say, hey, can we pause for a minute?
Yeah.
Can we take it slow? Can we hold off a little bit? That's my responsibility.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what I've learned about consent is if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. That's it. I try to tell guys beforehand because I know I'm a people pleaser. I like to appease people, but I put my body first before anyone when it comes to this stuff. And like, I'll just say like, I need this, I need care, I need cuddling after, I need, or I'll tell guys like, I can't, sometimes I have to go on like 3 dates with you before I can kiss you. And then sometimes I'll hang out with someone and then I'll want to kiss them like right away. I don't know. Sometimes I'll like hook up with someone and still not feel like I want to kiss them yet. Like, I don't know, but I do it on my terms. And I know that guys are most of the time down for anything. So I'm the one who kind of like sets the boundaries and the engagement beforehand, and I kind of let them know. And then if they have a weird reaction to it, then I'm like, okay, thanks for letting me know you're literally a rapist or you're impatient. You know what I mean? And you want something crazy that I can't really offer you at this pace. So
patience is so sexy. Patience?
Yeah, when a man's like, okay, fine, we don't have to do anything. I'm like, well, now I'm going to have to fuck you. Actually, because you were very patient and that's hot right now.
My last relationship, I was so into him. One of the biggest reasons why I was so into him was because he didn't make the first move. I could sense that he would be down for it.
Okay.
But he did not make the first move.
Right. That's a really important nuance. Like, it's not like he was friend zoning you. It's like you knew he was down, but he just was waiting for you to be comfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He literally, and I could sense he was just like, he let the ball in my court. He was like, I could sense it's like, when you are ready. When you are ready. He did not make the first move. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, like I can take my time. I don't have to force myself. Like if he starts making a first move, I don't have to be in a state. It's like, like, oh my gosh, do I want this? Do I not want this?
Right.
He just let me be. And I could sense that patience. And I was so attracted to that. And I'm like, you know what? This is a man who respects.
Right.
And that is so sexy.
100%. So marital rape is a topic that has come up before in the podcast. In episode 2 with Maysoon Zayed, she's Haifa Wahbi's age, which I think is like, late 40s. Hopefully I'm not getting that wrong. She'll be so upset with me. But Maysoon grew up in a time where there was no internet. She said she's gone to so many weddings where the brides had absolutely no idea what was going to happen that night. And she would basically like take these young brides who had no internet and no sex ed and tell them like, do you know what's going to happen today? And some of them would start crying when they found out what was going to happen. And she would tell them like, you don't have to do anything with him. Like you don't have to do anything tonight. You can just hug him. You could just like kind of get to know him, because they had no idea. Essentially, she would give them like an anti-marital rape talk on their wedding days. And then now it's different because people have the internet. They understand a little bit more like what's happening. But I grew up in a household where the hadith that's like extremely taken out of context. That
I actually have it written over here.
Yeah, the hadith is like a saying of the Prophet where if a husband asks his wife to come to bed and she says no, then the angels will curse her till the morning. So husbands be using that hadith to essentially force their wives to fuck them when their wives don't want to. I grew up hearing this in my household. Okay, that was one of the first ways that I was taught about sex, was that women don't like it, only men like it, and if your husband asks you to go to bed with him.
Women don't like it?
This is, I'm telling you, in my household.
Wait, hold on. Women don't like sex?
This is what I was told in my household. I'm just repeating what I was told and what shaped my thoughts and beliefs about sex at a very, very young age before I even knew what it was.
Consensual, safe sex is the best thing of this.
You don't have to tell me now. You don't have to tell Ho Javi Salma now. In fact, sex is too good that it's a problem. I'm like, you know what? We're abstaining for a bit so that I can get my horny monster under control so that it doesn't drive me off the edge of a cliff. But before I didn't know that because all I heard was this hadith. So I thought like, oh my God, marriage is just like night after night of him asking me to sleep with him and me saying no and me getting cursed by the angels, or like, that's what I thought was in store. Come to find out later, this is really fucking problematic. And when feminism started to grow in the Muslim community, Muslim women started to speak up against this hadith saying, first of all, that's between her and God. Like, let her be cursed by the angels in the morning. Don't fucking touch her. Number 2, the hadith apparently is taken out of context where it's like, you're not supposed to use it as a manipulative tactic. Like, for instance, be like, I'm not going to sleep with you until you change the light bulb, or like something like that. You know what I mean? And it's like a two-way street. So that's what I've heard about it and kind of how it's been recontextualized in my adult life.
Right.
But it's very problematic how prevalent this hadith is and how much it was used to justify marital rape in the Muslim community.
So I first heard that hadith myself when I was 19. I had so many friends in the MSA. One of my friends, like, she said that. And I internalized it. And also with what happened, like, after the incident, I was just like, okay, I'm just going to be a really good Muslim right now. I really took it to heart that in my first marriage, I was married twice, guys. I know.
If you're divorced once, it's kind of sad. You know what I'm saying? Divorced twice, that's chic. You're a man-eater.
If you're divorced twice, that's your initiation to becoming a baddie.
No offense to everybody who was divorced once, but you got to get on that.
My first divorce showed me my mommy issues. My second divorce showed me my daddy issues. And, I have a podcast now. Like, how many people can say that?
True.
Like, it's all my divorces. That's country. And now I'm a divorce recovery coach. I couldn't have been a divorce recovery coach.
Unless you had experience.
Unless I had experience.
Yeah. You know what's so funny is like all these really, really famous dating coaches and like relationship experts. The first thing people ask when you say I'm a relationships expert is like, well, are you in a relationship right now? Well, are you married? Well, like, have you found the love of your life? But with you, it's like she's a divorce coach or a divorce expert. It's like, well, what's her experience? Has she been divorced? It's like, yeah.
Twice.
Yeah, twice. Bitch.
Hey, failures is the pillar of success, man. Third times is a charm.
Exactly.
I'm excited to be married again. Not anytime soon, but one day. In my first marriage, after I heard that hadith, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to be top on my game. You know, like I can't let the angels curse me. So I was like,
Wow.
I remember my first ex-husband, he actually paused and he looked at me and he said, are you doing this like out of a sense of obligation? And I looked.
He could tell.
He could tell. And
Wow.
I looked at him and he's like, and I actually said, yes. And he said, I don't want you to ever do it out of obligation. I want you to do it because you want to.
Wow.
And he backed up. I was like, holy shit. Like, look at how that affected me. And that is also what I wanted to say. Like, obviously there's marital rape, like men weaponizing that to punish their wives and to get what they want. That is not okay at all. But it also affects women getting disconnected from ourselves where we feel we have to do something so we can
Just
stay.
to like get it done.
Just to, or to stay a good wife. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I
To
want
stay a good Muslim, right?
to stay a good Muslim,
Right.
right? But that is not what Islam teaches. I say Islam. I'm not talking about Muslim communities. Like, this is not what Quran like wants us to do. And we all, you know, that it's so cute at this point. Like, I don't know. I don't want to laugh at it, but like, it's so cute when somebody's getting married. Like, you know, like you ever meet in pairs and you wear garments for each other. It's so adorable. Like, I kind of did that too. Remember, like on my wedding card,
Yeah.
like your garments for each other. But there is so much wisdom into that. Like, your dress didn't force it upon you. You put it on by yourself. So when it comes to intimacy, when it comes to sex, it has to be mutual. It is shared. A husband doesn't have more right upon the wife than the wife does. And I think one of the things that is often not talked about is the importance of emotional and psychological safety in the relationship. Because a lot of us women, for us to open up like that, we need to feel safe. How do you sexually open up to a man that you don't emotionally feel safe with?
I mean, I have vaginismus, so it's like physically impossible for me to let you inside of my body unless I feel safe with you and I really like you.
Right. And for some people, that emotional intimacy is very important to finally become physically
Yeah, because
intimate.
like for a woman, it's like to let someone inside of you, it's like you have to surrender on a molecular, like biological level and really let go and be like, okay, this person, number one, is not going to kill me. Number one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Number
Yeah.
two is not going to assault me or violate me or rape me, essentially enforcing something upon me that I don't want. And that could be like as small as like he's doing something I don't want. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know, pressing down on a part of me that I'm like, stop doing it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't imagine
Yeah.
someone being like, no, I'm going to do it. Like, you're going to like this. What the fuck?
And in a relationship setting where you know, it's not a one night stand, it's not a casual thing, you're actually in a relationship with somebody.
Right.
You're also surrendering on a soul level.
Right.
You're letting your guards down. Like, think about how so many of us, you know, might have trust issues, might walk on eggshells. Like, we have our guards up, right? Like, as a woman, you're literally becoming emotionally vulnerable as well, along with being physically vulnerable.
course.
So there is so much vulnerability that goes into it. It's an amana.
Totally.
It's an amana. It's a trust.
Totally.
And the hadith about, you know, angels cursing females, it's just so sad how that is weaponized, Salma. Like, I can't.
I remember I heard it another time in my adulthood when I was a counselor at a Muslim youth helpline. It was like an anonymous Muslim helpline in Canada. And a woman called, like, complaining. She was a regular caller, and she complained, talking about how her husband uses that hadith on her.
No.
Yeah. And then
No.
I remember, like, I was like, oh my God, I used to hear this when I was really young. And then I, like, took it back to some of my counselor friends who also worked for the helpline. And they were like, that's really fucked up. Like, it was actually Muslim men hearing it for the first time and being like, and they were the ones who told me, this is really fucked up. This is like being used to justify rape. And it was ironically a man who like made me realize, oh yeah, this is fucked up.
It is. And, you know, like, sex in a marriage is a right upon both of them. It's a responsibility. A lot of people can become very passive aggressive, and I'm not gonna sleep with you. Boundaries. Respect my boundaries. Hey, if you don't want to be intimate and you're having you're like, I'm not ready for this, communicate that. Right. But it also shouldn't be like, we shouldn't be depriving our spouses from physical intimacy out of spite,
Yeah.
out of maliciousness,
Out of manipulation.
out of
essentially.
manipulation,
Or
like, you know,
control.
or
Yeah.
control. Because, you know, I'm sure there are people or women or men, he's like, you know, I'm not going to touch you. Like, I think a lot of men can do, like, I'm not going to hug you. Like, women, like, you know, like, please hug me. And men are like, I'm not, you know, that emotional abandonment that happens sometimes
Right.
as a form of manipulation. I think perhaps there are women as well who do that, that
Right.
I'm not going to touch you out of manipulation. So that's not okay.
Right.
That's
It's interesting though, because yes, like if it's like, oh, I know he really wants this, so I'm not going to give it to him because I'm pissed at him.
Yes.
Versus when there is a disagreement between me and my partner, especially if it's like a deeper core issue in the foundation of like our dynamic, or I don't want to say like relationship because I've been in like one relationship, but like, you know, whatever our situation.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't feel like I want to hug you or touch you or say I love
Yeah.
you because I
Yeah.
feel like now we're strangers. I feel like
yeah.
on the outs
Yeah.
for a minute. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
And then if we talked and resolved it in like 20
good.
minutes, I'm in your lap. Like, do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So basically, what happened was that you know, there was that break.
Mm-hmm.
There was that break in that emotional intimacy and understanding, which naturally, and it happens. Like, you know,
Right.
it's like, okay, I need some distance. Like, this is because being on our man's lap, that is a vulnerable thing to do too.
Right.
It's so like, you know, like, hey, I'm yours. Like, you know,
For
it's
me, I'm
cute.
like, oh my God, he's going to see how heavy I am. Literally, I'm like, oh man. I'm
I
about
used
to
to have
squish
that.
you.
I used to have that. But so what you just described, you're not manipulating him at all. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? That makes sense. But yeah, so like
No, and I'm trying to communicate. Like, it's not,
Exactly.
I want it to resolve it. It's not
you're not
like
stonewalling him.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not stonewalling him.
Right.
You're not dismissing. You're not deflecting.
Right.
You're not weaponizing it. So I think that is the distinction that we need to make.
Right.
And we need to understand that for any marriage to stay healthy and sustainable, if sex and physical intimacy is a part of it, it has to stay healthy. And for any physical intimacy dynamic, if it has to stay healthy,
Yeah.
both people needs to be happy in it.
100%.
Both people needs to feel pleasure. Both people needs to feel taken care of. It's the giving and the receiving.
Right.
And if there is like a Muslim man who is like, I want my wife to go down on me, but I'm not gonna go down on her, like,
If
please.
you're not going down on your woman, you don't deserve a woman. Okay, let's just say that right here. We need natural selection. Men who are not going down on women will not be reproducing. Actually, It
There
is
are
the
a lot of
end.
men who have that expectation. She's gonna go down, but I'm not gonna go down on her. So
You can fuck off.
like you need to become a man before you can even think of marriage at this
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
Like you need to do that.
I want to talk a little bit about. I went to a sex club in Berlin last year. I went to a sex party in Beverly Hills, and it was like this super fancy sex party in like a $40 million mansion in Bel Air. It was so over the top. I witnessed a squirting competition, okay? And it was just like a whole thing. Then what I found very, very interesting, first of all, they pre-interviewed everybody, asking them, what do you know about consent? First of all, to even apply, we had to submit our photos and write up a paragraph about what consent means to us.
Wow.
It was my first time describing consent ever, really. Like, I was like, you know, I'm perceptive. I'm in tune with the person. I see like what they want. I can tell if they want something, if they don't want something. And I just like adjust accordingly. I had never really like written out my thought process around consent. After that, they interview you. And then after that, you have to do a STD test and submit it beforehand. Otherwise, you're not allowed into the party. And then you go to the party. I would say we were maybe like 200 people, mostly couples. I would say maybe like 80% couples. And then some single people here and there. They sat us all down for an assembly where they then described consent, and they were like, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. Okay, that's where I learned that from. It was a sex party. If somebody approaches you and you say no to them, if they approach you again, that's grounds for kicking them out of the party.
Right.
And if you are too inebriated to give consent, they will kick you out of the party.
Right.
And you have to wear a condom with a first-time sexual partner. And if you violate any of these rules, they will kick you out.
Right.
After that, they said, we're going to do an activity right now where you guys just walk around, and if you see someone who catches your eye, then you have to do you have to look into their eyes for a minute. And when I tell you, I did that with like 4 guys. When I tell you, they were sweating. They wanted to be like released from like the grip, because it's so fucking intense and intimate to like look someone in the eye. But they made us do that first. They did a lot of icebreakers with us to like kind of get comfortable with each other. And then from there, you could approach and ask people to do whatever you wanted. And there's so many different spaces where you could do what you wanted. And then there were like aftercare stations, which I thought was so beautiful and tender. Anyways, I didn't end up doing anything. I watched my friend have a threesome. That was insane. Like watching her in front of me. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop watching because I don't feel comfortable watching unless I ask for consent. But I also didn't want to ruin the moment, like make it about me. She's getting railed right now. Do you know what I mean? Leave her alone. I did leave her alone. But then there's apparently a porn star there. My other friend, male, obviously recognized her. I didn't know who she was. He's like, that's a porn star. And then later, but she didn't do anything. She left early because she apparently had an orgy the day before that she was filming. So this porn star leaves the party and she tweets, oh, I was just at a sex party in Beverly Hills and I didn't have sex. I was like, same. I'm the same as a porn star, actually. Okay. But yeah, that was the first place where I really had people like explain consent in like a social and enforce it in a social environment, and it was great.
Can I just hold your hand for a minute?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It takes a lot of courage to share that, okay?
You're welcome.
Sex clubs in general empowers everybody to own their no. And for so many of us, our communities don't really teach us how to say no. So this whole thing about, abandoning yourself to please others, it starts at a very young age. It's like that auntie who's like gossiping about you. Our parents tell us to be nice to her. No, I don't want to be nice to an auntie who's like hurting my feelings all the time. I don't want to go to a party where people are constantly judging me and questioning me.
Or even like give her a kiss. Like you have to kiss an adult that you just met. It's like
or hug and so we're not empowered to recognize our no, let alone own our no. So sex clubs, they empower you to own your no and really own your no. And sex clubs also hold people accountable. Can you imagine if we were living in a Muslim community where if a woman came forward, shared with the community, my husband raped me and used a hadith against me, and our community was holding such men accountable? Can you imagine if our community was holding that man accountable?
It's laughable. I can't imagine.
I can't either. But can you imagine if that happened, how different we would have been? We don't hold people accountable, and we don't teach ourselves on how to recognize our no. A lot of our Muslim brothers, and I'm looking at the brothers, if you want a freaky wife, get out of your parents' house. If you want a freak in the sheets, get out of your parents' house. Like, I want to have sex on the countertop. I want to have sex on the living room floor. I want to have, don't.
She said she wants to have sex on the fucking countertops. Okay,
I do. I want to.
Throw me across the kitchen. That's what she said.
I want to have a blissful, adventurous, intimate life with my partner.
And you don't want your mother-in-law in the room right next to you,
or even like upstairs. Yeah. Just
ideally
don't.
Not in the neighborhood.
Neighborhood is okay, soundproof and
not
like
within
whatever.
a 3-kilometer radius.
Yes, please don't. I don't. If you want a woman who's freaky, you want to be able to let her yell and moan and scream, okay? Like just allow her to have the space. I think a lot of in-laws may not impact the sexual relationship between the husband and wife directly, but they do it indirectly. The whole psychological passive aggressiveness, right? It affects a woman. Right. It affects a woman emotionally. It affects a relationship. Like, quick example, mother-in-law is being toxic, wife is suffering, goes to the husband is not standing up to the mother-in-law for her. Are you gonna feel that respect or the desire towards your partner if your man is not standing up for you?
Legs are closed.
You
from
can't.
This point onwards.
If my man is not standing up for me and protecting me, or at the very least trying to smooth things out, if I don't feel that my man has my back, I'm sorry. I don't think I physically can allow him inside me. So all of these in-law drama, I don't think people realize how much it affects the intimate life of couples as well.
And this is very common, like I've seen it among Arabs, but it's mostly common among Southeast Asians, right?
It is extremely common. And the purpose of sex is not only to have children. The purpose of sex is not only to have children.
Exactly.
Sometimes it is to speak a love language. Sometimes it is to release stress. Sometimes it is to, heal my daddy issues a little bit.
Right? We can talk about kinks. I mean, that would be a whole other episode.
Kinks can be very healing. But yes. It's a different episode. But yes, the purpose of sex
can also just be to exchange energy and build a bond and a connection.
Sex between a husband and wife can be a beautiful thing to do, even when you're trying to deepen your relationship with God.
Totally.
and serving the purpose of why God created me.
Right.
God created me with desires. God created me with a purpose.
And love. Like,
And love.
I remember, obviously I used to be really practicing, and now I've kind of taken a step back. But I remember one of the first things that I questioned was when I was in my only relationship. I was in hijab. I was a virgin. I hadn't even masturbated. I think I was 26 at the time. He was 27. And it was my first time. I remember the night I met him, I had like a wet dream about him, which was fucking crazy. Like, that was unheard of for me. And so it was the first time I ever felt really sexually attracted to a person who was also sexually attracted to me. And we never did anything. Like, we never kissed or anything. We would just like cuddle and hold hands. Like, we never ended up actually acting on it. He never even saw my hair. Like, he's seeing it now. Same time as you
It's
guys.
beautiful.
Thank you. And I remember like him and I both were like, we're not gonna do anything sexual because like we could never. It's haram. I think he was mostly appeasing me because he knew it was a very, very, very big deal for me. But I was the one who was like kind of pushing him, and he was the one who was feeling guilt. And I just remember like thinking to myself, I can't imagine that this love that I have inside of me that I'm trying to give him is haram. Like, it's such a pure feeling. Like, I really love this guy, and I just want to get intimate with him. Like, I couldn't understand how this is a sin. This is a wrong feeling. Meanwhile, I'm coming from a fucking household or community where men are controlling women, abusing them, abusing children. They're hypocrites. And somehow that's not a sin.
Thank you for saying that. Sex, that is the epitome, the culmination of that feeling. It literally is a union. Two people coming together, becoming one.
We're going to wrap up this episode with Sarzana sharing a story. So you began very bravely, first of all, very vulnerably, and I'm very grateful that you chose this moment to share that.
Thank you.
But you began this episode by bravely sharing with us your first moment of intimacy, or when you lost your virginity, and how that was non-consensual. And then you went and did all this therapy and learning and training about consent and about sort of how to own your voice. And then now, do you want to tell us about a time when you went on a Muzzmatch date?
I went on a Muzzmatch date, and this was, I think, a couple of years ago.
So over a decade since the incident.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Literally. Oh my gosh. Literally on the dot. Yeah, on the dot. Good job. Look at that science degree coming into play.
Right. Math Olympics
There
coming
we
in
go.
clutch. Can I just say something about fight or flight, freeze or fawn? So a therapist of mine told me, like, there's some of them are actually better than others. For instance, and you're going to get there right now, but freezing, and I guess fawning as well, but freezing is like the worst of the of the bunch to do, because that's the one where you have the least agency.
Yes, and trigger warning again, freezing is the least agency. Sometimes it can be beneficial depending on the situation, but I'm not going to get into that. But freeze is one of the worst ones, and freeze is also the response that at its worst leads to suicide ideation. So if somebody is feeling suicidal or getting suicidal, it's actually their freeze response going into the extreme mode.
Right.
So I go on this Muzzmatch date. The guy's like, do you want to go watch a movie? And I'm like, okay, sure. Like, do you want me to come pick you up? And I'm like, yeah, why not? I can, like, at this point, and I'm like getting into like a guy's car. Like, I am prepped. Like, there's a part of me that's just like, still like, like if it's a new guy, like I have to be careful. But then I'm like, okay, you know what? I think I'm okay. But at the same time, fine, pick me up. And then he picked me up. We went to watch the movie. We watched the movie. And then he was going to drop me off. And I told him to just park by, the plaza near my place, and I'll just walk to my home. Because I didn't want him to know where I live. Right. So I'm like, just park at the plaza. I'll walk home. So he parked there. And he literally went for me, Salma. Like, he literally went for me to kiss me. And I was like, oh, whoa, like, please, like, no. I didn't say please. I was just like, no. And then he's like, you want to. And then he went for me again. And then I said, no. And then he's like, come on, you're my woman. I know, right? He literally said,
This is your first time meeting this man?
This is my first time meeting this man. And he's like, you're my woman. And I'm like, anyway, he tries to kiss me again. And this was the third time. And I yelled at him. I was like on the passenger seat, and I yelled at him. I'm not going to yell into the mic right now.
Do it.
I channeled the tiger energy in me. I channeled the fight in me. I channeled the daddy in me. I channeled the warrior woman, masculine energy, like feminine. Like, I combined everything, and I yelled at him. I literally told him, I told you no twice. Can you not hear me? I yelled so hard. He literally went back to his like seat. And I think I didn't stop. I think I kept yelling at him. And I'm just like...
What did you say? Oh my God, it's like every man who's ever hurt you is now this man.
It was like, how dare you?
Right.
Like, you know, like I told you no once. I told you no a second time. And you're still pushing yourself on me?
Right.
It's a no. Do you hear that? It's a no. I yelled for like 60 seconds. And then I got out of his car and he drove off like he was running for his life. Like I saw the car, like the way he just turned and like drove off. He just drove off. And I was walking out and a part of me was like, was that too much, Sarzana? Like, was I emotionally dysregulated? Like, was that too much? And then a part of me is like, no. In that moment, I needed to do anything in my power to protect myself from a potential rapist, from a potential abuser, I needed to protect myself from a potential assault happening. He was about to assault me, you know, like,
and he wasn't fucking listening to you.
He wasn't listening, and he was he was forcing himself onto me. Mm-hmm. That is assault, especially because I just met him. We're not in a relationship, you know. Like if I was in a relationship, I'm like, I really want to kiss you, babe. I really want to kiss you, and I'm like, I'm not ready for it. I really want to kiss you. Like that's a whole another conversation. But like over here, even then, that's like, you know, it's nuanced. But over here, like, who are you to do that to me? So I was walking home, and in that moment, Salma, to like, you know, circle back, you know, when I was telling you, like, I kept telling the guy, no, please, no. And I was like fawning and like, please, no. In that moment, I said no, and I'm going to roar no if I need to and make sure that they listen to my no. And I walked home telling myself my fight response here is what saved me.
Yeah. So beautiful.
I just want to kind of like finish that off by telling women, if there is a man trying to come off on you and you're not ready for it, don't think you're too much. Own your voice. Own your power. Own your no. Because when you learn to own your no, you learn to own your yes.
Beautiful. Sarzana, thank you so much for everything. I hope you guys have learned a thing or two or three about consent and about getting back into your body and owning your own experience and reclaiming sex and pleasure for yourself. If you have any questions for Sarzana specifically, she has very graciously agreed to accept questions. Please feel free to reach out to her at thedaughterwithDaddyissues@gmail.com. And please check out her podcast, which is called The Daughter with Daddy Issues. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of The Secret Sex Lives of Muslim Women. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please take a moment to rate our podcast on Apple, on Spotify, and please follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and share it with your friends. We also have a Patreon, which you guys can join. If you have a story of your own to share, whether anonymously or publicly, please reach out to us at thesecretsexlivesofmuslimwomen.com. And remember, your story matters even when it's being silenced, especially when it's being silenced. This episode was recorded in Manhattan, New York at 30 Irving Studios. I've been your host, Salma Hindi. We will see you next time.